The Italian resistance movement is an umbrella term for resistance groups that oppose the occupying German forces and the Italian fascist puppet regime of the Italian Social Republic during the later years of World War II. It was formed by pro-Allied Italians, following the Allied invasion of the country, the armistice between Italy and Allied armed forces, and German military occupation of northern Italy. The movement is also known as the Italian Resistance and the Italian Partisans. The brutal conflicts they took part in is referred to as the Italian Liberation War or as the Italian Civil War. The modern Italian Republic was declared to be founded on the struggle of the resistance by Italian armed forces. In Italy, Rome armed resistance to the German occupation following the armistice between Italy and Allied armed forces began with Italian regular forces, the Italian armed forces and the Carabinieri military police. The period's best-known battle broke out in Rome the day the armistice was announced. Regia Esercita units such as the Sassari Division, the Granatieri di Sardegna, the Piave Division, the Ariete II Division, the Centauro Division, the Piacenza Division and the Lupi di Toscana Division were deployed around the city and along surrounding roads. Outnumbered German Fallschirmjäger and Panzergrenadiere were initially repelled and endured heavy losses, but slowly gained the upper hand, aided by their experience and superior panzer component. The defenders were hampered by the escape of King Victor Emmanuel III, Marshal Pietro Badoglio and their staff to Brindisi, which left the generals in charge of the city without a coordinated defense plan. This caused Allied support to be cancelled at the last minute, since the Fallschirmjäger took the U.S. 82nd Airborne Division drop zones. Brigadier General Maxwell D. Taylor had crossed enemy lines and gone to Rome to personally supervise the operation. The Italian Centauro II Division's absence from the battle contributed to the German defeat given its German-made tanks. It was composed primarily of ex-blackshirts and was not trusted. By the 10th of September, the Germans had penetrated downtown Rome and the Granatieri made their last stand at Porta San Paolo. At 4 p.m., General Giorgio Carlo Calvi di Bergolo signed the order of surrender. The Italian divisions were disbanded, and the members taken prisoner, although some officers participating in the battle later joined the resistance. The clash was not motivated by anti-German sentiment, but by the necessity to defend the Italian capital and resist the Italian soldiers' disarmament. Generals Raffaele Cadorna, Jr., and Giuseppe Cordero Lanza di Montesmulla joined the underground. General Gioacchino Solinas instead opted for the pro-German Italian Social Republic. Piombino. One of the most important episodes of resistance by Italian armed forces after the armistice was the Battle of Piombino, Tuscany, on 10 September 1943. During Operation ACHSE, a small German flotilla, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Karl Wolf Albrand, tried to enter the harbour of Piombino but was denied access by the port authorities. General Cesare Maria de Vecchi, in command of the Italian coastal forces, commanded the port authorities to allow the German flotilla to enter, against the advice of Commander Amadeo Capulano, the naval commander of the harbour. Once they entered and landed, the German forces showed a hostile behavior, and it became clear that their intent was to occupy the town. The local population asked for a resolved reaction by the Italian forces, threatening an insurrection, but the senior Italian commander, General Fortunato Perna, instead ordered his tanks to open fire on the civilians. To disperse the crowds, De Vecchi forbade any action against the Germans. This, however, did not stop the protests. Some junior officers, acting on their own initiative and against the orders, assumed command and started distributing weapons to the population, and civilian volunteers joined the Italian sailors and soldiers in the defense. Battle broke out at 21:15 on 10 September, between the German landing forces and the Italian coastal batteries, tanks, and civilian population. Italian tanks sank the German torpedo boat Tar-11. Italian artillery also sank 7 Marineffe-Ram. Sauro and Carbet were scuttled because of the damage they had suffered. The German attack was repelled. By the dawn of the 11th of September, 120 Germans had been killed and about 200 to 300 captured, 120 of them wounded. Italian casualties had been 4 killed and a dozen wounded. 4 Italian submarine chasers were also sunk during the fighting. Later in the morning, however, De Vecchi ordered the prisoners to be released, and had their weapons given back to them. New popular protests broke out, as the Italian units were disbanded and the senior commanders fled from the city. The divisional command surrendered Piombino to the Germans on 12 September, and the city was occupied. Many of the sailors, soldiers and citizens who had fought in the Battle of Piombino retreated to the surrounding woods and formed the first partisan formations in the area. Outside Italy in the days following the 8th of September 1943, most servicemen, left without orders from higher echelons, were disarmed and shipped to POW camps in the Third Reich. However, some garrisons stationed in occupied Greece, Albania, Yugoslavia and Italy fought the Germans. Admirals Inigo Campioni and Luigi Masciappa led an attempt to defend Rhodes, Kos, Leros and other Dodecanese islands from their former allies, with reinforcements from SHASH, SBS and British Army troops under the command of Generals Francis Gerard, Russell Britterus and Robert Tilney. The defenders held on for a month. However, the Wehrmacht took the islands through air and sea landings by infantry and Fallschirmjäger supported by the Luftwaffe. Both Campioni and Masciappa were captured and executed at Verona for high treason. On 13 September 1943, the Acqui Division stationed in Cephalonia was ordered by Italian High Command to attack the Germans, despite ongoing negotiations. After a 10-day battle, the Germans executed thousands of officers and enlisted men in retaliation. Those killed in the massacre of the Acqui Division included Division Commander, General Antonio Gandin. Other Italian forces remained trapped in Yugoslavia following the armistice, and some decided to fight alongside the local resistance. Elements of the Torinense Division, the Venezia Division, the Austria Division and the Emilia Division were assembled in the Italian Garibaldi Partisan Division, part of the Yugoslav People's Liberation Army. When the unit finally returned to Italy at the end of the war, half its members had been killed or were listed as missing in action. Bastia, in Corsica, was the setting of a naval battle between Italian torpedo boats and an attacking German flotilla. Italian military internees. Italian soldiers captured by the Germans numbered around 650,000–700,000, of whom over 40,000 later died in the camps. Most refused cooperation with the Third Reich despite hardship, chiefly to maintain their oath of fidelity to the king. Their former allies designated them Italienische Militärinternierte to deny them prisoner of war status and the rights granted by the Geneva Convention. Their actions were eventually recognized as an act of unarmed resistance on a par with the armed confrontation of other Italian servicemen.